My name is Mario Carrasco. I'm co-founder and principal of ThinkNow. We're a market research firm focused on helping companies in the US understand multicultural consumers. The way that we define multicultural consumers in the US are Hispanic American, African American, and Asian American. They're the fastest growing consumers in the US, and each of them with their own different cultures, and within those different backgrounds, there's even different cultures. And so, as you know, your cultural background affects everything you do, right? Including purchase behaviors, how you use products and services. So we help companies understand what those differences and similarities are, so they could better position their products in their mind of these consumers. The reason that we focus on multicultural consumers specifically is that they're the fastest growing demographic in the US. And so really for brands, companies to grow, stay competitive, they need to understand these consumers, and we help them out. This is one of my favorite studies. Honda came to us. In the US, among Hispanics, Honda's a very popular brand. And they have one truck called the Ridgeline that was underperforming among Hispanics. Even though in the US, the biggest drivers of truck purchases are Hispanic Americans. And so it didn't really make sense that Honda is a really popular brand, and yet among Hispanics, trucks are very popular among Hispanics, but the Honda truck wasn't resonating. So they wanted to figure out what's going on. And so they came to us, and we proposed a methodology of one-on-one interviews, very similar to what we're doing today, among Hispanic truck drivers or purchasers of pickup trucks in the US. And they wanted to understand, why are Hispanic, what's the drivers of purchasing a truck? And one of my favorite insights during the interviews that we saw across multiple interviews was that for most people, right, when a friend asks you, hey, do you have a truck? I'm moving this weekend, you kind of dread that question, right? Like no one wants to help your friends or family move, and you don't want to be that person that has a truck and you're helping your friend move, whatever it may be. But we found for Hispanics, actually the opposite was true. One of the reasons that they purchase trucks is to be that person that friends and family go to when they need help. And so that was one of my favorite insights. And so they built a whole marketing campaign for the Ridgeline around being that person, that go-to person in the family and their friend circle that can be relied on to help out. And so that in a nutshell kind of tells you what we do, right? In general, when you think about moving, it's something most of us shy away from, but among Hispanics, it's something that they actually embrace. And so understanding those cultural differences allows you to build marketing campaigns that really help you resonate with your target consumer. The way that we position it is that lots of the larger market research companies have divisions within the larger, more broad company that focus on multicultural consumers. But we feel like our competitive advantage is that this is all we do. We have people that have focused on multicultural consumers for the past 2 decades. And if your company is serious about growing multicultural consumers, you don't want to work with just a department. You want to work with a company that's been doing this, that's really focused on it. So number one is our expertise in multicultural consumers. Number two, when most companies think about doing research among multicultural consumers, a lot of these companies we work with, like Honda, Google, Facebook, have tons of data, have done surveys in the past among general market consumers. And the typical approach is, hey, we have this survey, let's just field this among African Americans, let's just field this among Hispanics, without taking a look at the questionnaire and adjusting it for the way that different audiences respond to questions. An example of this is Hispanic positivity bias. This is something that's been studied again and again. When you give a questionnaire to Hispanics, they tend to be more positive in their responses. And so if you as a brand, the first time doing research among Hispanics, field a survey, you're going to think, wow, I'm doing great. All my scores are off the chart. I don't have to do anything. And that's something that we bring to the table. We know how to create more discrimination in the responses by setting up certain protocols that account for that. And so that's part of our secret sauce as well, kind of knowing what those cultural biases that come out in survey responses and how to mitigate that from a questionnaire standpoint. Early on, actually, a fluke. Early on, we contracted somebody 2011, 2012 to help us out in SEO. And at that point, I was really ignorant on SEO. We were just like, hey, help us get to first page results, right? And this person at the time was doing things that were fine, standard practice. If you remember, like link stuffing, things like that, right? And then I think it was 2013, 2014, Google changed their algorithm and frowned upon that. So we were actually blacklisted. And so at that point, we actually switched to content. And it was a blessing in disguise, right? We got, Google was no longer ranking us. And so we started doing our own research to create lead generation and create blogs. And from there, it's grown. So now we rely almost exclusively on content that we write. My undergrad is in English literature, so I have a strong writing background. My business partner's in communications, so we write all our own content. Because we have a research company, we own and operate our own research panel with the respondents. We field research and write blogs. And so now, our website's generating 3,000-4,000 unique visitors a month. We download, we generate leads by people going to our site, reading our blog, downloading our reports. We now have people that outbound call and follow up on those leads, set up meetings to discuss those reports. And that's our sales funnel. It's really writing content that helps clients and potential clients. And that's driven by what's out there, what's popular. So right now, unfortunately, with this epidemic going on, for example, we're looking into the coronavirus. So we just fielded a study on how is this going to impact consumer behavior. So that's a piece of content that we'll be writing. So primarily I would say content is our number one driver. Number one, we have a really robust email list that we built over the year that's very targeted. Everything is linked to our CRM. We use Salesforce. And so all the downloads, the moment that you download and put your information, that's being pulled into Salesforce and growing our database. And so we write content on a bi-monthly basis, and then we have a monthly email that goes out. And so our number one generator of traffic is email. Number two is social, primarily LinkedIn. And then from there, it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. We also get picked up almost by every trade publication in our industry for market research. So once we create that and send out the email, we then send out our content to the trade publications that generate traffic for us as well, because trade publications are always looking for great original content, right? And so we've thankfully been able to create those relationships where almost like clockwork, they're republishing. And then also, every once in a while we have content that resonates with a more broader audience outside of our industry. So we did some research on Latinx, for example, which is a new term being used to describe the Latino or Hispanic population in the US. And this was late last year. it got picked up by some really large publications like the New York Times, the Atlantic. And so, maybe once a year we get some content that gets picked up by some of the larger news media organizations as well. Some of the trends that are happening in market research are DIY tools, do-it-yourself research. And that's really kind of a fundamental change to the industry that's relied on expertise. And so what we've done to get into that space is we've created a SaaS platform that takes all these studies that we've been doing that started as content marketing. We realized we're sitting on tons of data after 6 years of doing our own report. And so what we did is we gathered all that data, we put it into a big data environment, created a UI where users can log in, input things that they know about their consumer. So for example, they can say African American, millennials that are looking for a subcompact car in the next 30 days and click search. Based on that criteria that you input about that consumer, you can then see, okay, here's my consumer. What other things are they interested in? What websites do they visit? What type of food do they eat? How many hours of TV do they watch in an average week? So we want to be able to give clients that don't have time to engage us for a full-blown study that could take 2 months at times, and need data quickly. We're looking to fill a gap there, and that's going to be our first foray into DIY. And again, our competitive advantage hasn't changed. We are sticking with that multicultural expertise. There's a lot of marketing technology tools out there. Not many have robust multicultural data sets. And so, that next step for us is really that SaaS platform and filling the gap of being able to provide multicultural data on demand. So that's been a learning experience. It's been 2 years, right? So the first year we relied on a vendor. It didn't work out. Even though I knew that, I thought, I trusted this vendor. But then we made the transition and we actually did hire up and brought a data scientist in-house, a UI developer in-house, a back-end programmer in-house. And so now we're much more a technology company than we are a service. Well, I shouldn't say that. We're equally a technology company as much as we are a service company. And bringing it in-house has been a game changer. Now the tool is much more robust. We have much more control over it. We actually just launched it last month. And it's getting great reception. It's called ThinkNow Connect. We've also relied on talent overseas, specifically in Mexico. There's a lot of great technology talent there. We have a broad network there because we do have some employees that work for us based out of Mexico. And so word of mouth referral, we were able to hire some great data scientists and programmers that allowed us to bring our costs lower. And get those resources in-house that we typically wouldn't be able to do here in the US. I'm pretty active across LinkedIn, so I have a unique name, Mario Carrasco, Carrasco, at ThinkNow. On Twitter, my handle is at Mario, X as an X-ray, Carrasco, Carrasco. And you can always email me, mario@thinknow.com.